was eventually cancelled, especially superhero movies. Since these movies have such iconic characters, it's interesting to find out what vision some directors had for them. So today, I'm going to go through some cancelled Marvel movies, and eventually I'll do the same about DC movies, but for now at least, let's just get right into this. First off, let's talk about what is probably the most famous cancelled Marvel movie, James Cameron's Spider-Man. It would have been released somewhere in the early to mid-90s and star Leonardo DiCaprio as Spider-Man, which sounds like it could be alright. The villains were going to be Dr. Octopus, Electro, and Sandman. Electro was going to be played by Lance Henriksen, and Sandman was going to be played by Michael Biehn. Both actors you may know were in The Terminator. As for Doc Ock, he was apparently going to be played by the Terminator himself, Arnold Schwarzenegger, which would never have worked, but would be pretty cool and probably hilarious to see. Maggie Smith was apparently going to play Aunt May. Robin Lively was going to play Mary Jane, and apparently Stan Lee really wanted to play the part of J. Jonah Jameson. But the role eventually fell to R. Lee Emery. I swear, I'm not making this up. The movie was also going to have an R rating with lots of swearing and some sex scenes, one of which would take place on the Brooklyn Bridge. The only reason the film was cancelled, however, wasn't because of how crazy it sounds, but actually because Marvel was going bankrupt and had to sell the film rights of Spider-Man to Sony Pictures. Now, would this have been good? Maybe James Cameron could have pulled it together and make something special, but no matter what, this would have gone down as one of the weirdest superhero movies in history. Now for another Spider-Man movie, Spider-Man 4. This was obviously going to be the continuation of Sam Raimi's Spider-Man trilogy after 2007's Spider-Man 3. Not much was actually known about the movie even after it was cancelled. It was rumored to have Dylan Baker as the Lizard, John Malkovich as the Vulture, Bruce Campbell as Mysterio, and Anne Hathaway playing either Black Cat or a new character, Vultress. Now some of this was confirmed after some concept art got leaked earlier this year showing both Mysterio and the Vulture, although there was no concept art of the Lizard, Black Cat, or Vultress. Anyway, the film was cancelled after Sam Raimi had trouble deciding what he wanted for the movie, and the studio just decided to reboot the franchise. Next up, Quentin Tarantino's Iron Man. Back in the year 2000, Universal Pictures sold the film rights to Iron Man to 20th Century Fox, and they immediately planned to make a movie about it. The idea was pitched to Quentin Tarantino, and he was interested in it, so he got to direct the film. So this was going to be a violent Iron Man movie. Like, really violent. Because the movie was going to have a low budget, the studio wanted the story to focus more on Tony Stark than his alter ego. As for who was going to play him, well, Nicolas Cage was interested in it, but the studio wanted to cast Tom Cruise instead. Which I honestly believe would never work. Tom Cruise is a good actor, don't get me wrong, but he is not Tony Stark. Anyway, Cruise turned the role down because he didn't like the script, and Tarantino started losing interest in the film, so the studio just scrapped it. Finally, back in the early 2000s, Peyton Reed, who went on to direct Ant-Man, was working with Fox on a Fantastic Four movie. The film was going to take place in the 1960s and completely skipped the origin story. The movie was also going to have a very light tone, and Peyton Reed described it as some kind of family comedy. As for the cast, most sources suggested Alexis Denisof as Mr. Fantastic, Charlize Theron as the Invisible Woman, Paul Walker as the Human Torch, John C. Reilly as the Thing, and Jude Law as Dr. Doom. The reason the film was cancelled, however, was because the studio didn't like all of Peyton Reed's ideas and instead got director Tim Story to make a Fantastic Four movie. And we all know how that turned out. So, putting all this together, Peyton Reed's Fantastic Four could have been a massive hit. The idea to have a Fantastic Four movie taking place in the 60s seems like an interesting idea, and Peyton Reed did do a pretty great job with Ant-Man. So, I don't know about you, but I would have watched it. Alright, now I'm just going to speed around through a few movies that I couldn't find that much info about, so I'll just talk about them briefly. First off, Guillermo del Toro, who you may know as the guy who directed Pan's Labyrinth, Pacific Rim, Hellboy, Blade 2, and most recently Crimson Peak, was offered to direct a Doctor Strange movie back in 2007. And based on this guy's track record, he really knows how to make some cool fantasy/action movies. So, he would have probably made a pretty awesome Doctor Strange movie. Sadly though, the film was scrapped after Del Toro dropped out to make The Hobbit, which he also dropped out of. Back in the 1980s, Stan Lee pitched some kind of Ant-Man movie to Disney, but they turned it down because they thought the premise was too similar to Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. I don't know if a 1980s Ant-Man movie would have been good, but it would definitely have been interesting to see. Next up, X-Men Origins Magneto. Back in around 2007, Fox really wanted to do origin story movies for their X-Men characters. This was going to come out after X-Men Origins Wolverine and was going to be directed by David S. Goyer, who directed Blade Trinity, The Invisible, and The Unborn, so he isn't the best director. But then again, he did help write the Dark Knight trilogy, so there's that. Anyway, the movie would take place in the 60s and have young Magneto befriending Charles Xavier, but the two would later become enemies because Charles discovers that he's killing people related to Nazis in a search for vengeance. Although that was just one of the many drafts. Magneto would also be played by Ian McKellen, most likely using that CGI facelift thing from The Last Stand, and I don't think anyone wants to watch that for a whole movie. Anyway, the movie was cancelled after Origins Wolverine was a flop with both critics and fans, but a lot of the story elements did make its way into X-Men First Class. Later this year, Sony was going to release a Sinister Six movie, but that was scrapped because Sony made a deal with Marvel in 2015, so they could borrow the Spider-Man characters. Sinister Six would probably have been crap anyways. The Amazing Spider-Man 3 and 4 were also planned to be released in 2018 and either 2019 or 2020. They were cancelled for the same reason as the Sinister Six movie. Fantastic 2 was also planned, but after the first one flopped, it didn't make it, which was probably a good decision. Anyway, those were some of the cancelled Marvel movies. Remember to like this video, leave a comment, and subscribe for more videos like this one.